Hi, my friends. Today we are starting our new unit of measurement, and before we even start going over the lesson, I would like to talk about the benchmarks. Benchmarks are used to help us estimate. So today is all about estimating how much something is, how long something is, how much volume, and remember volume is how much it can hold, and then how much it weighs. The two different ways that you were going to hear weigh is weight and then mass. And it still means how heavy something is. So I've made this chart. Now, it was too hard to draw on our chart, so in our notebook. So normally what I would do is I would print this off and you would glue it in there. So for right now, just make sure you know where to find this helper chart when you go to your assignment. We're first going to look at the blue. The blue is customary units of measurement. This is what you usually hear in the United States. So for a customary unit of length, that's how long or how high something is, we first start with the inch. The inch, and then the benchmark that we have here is the picture of your finger. And it has the very top of your finger, like right below your nail. So that's about an inch. So if you didn't have a ruler, that's your benchmark. You look at your finger and you see it's about an inch. The next one is a foot, and that's a license plate. So think of a license plate on a car, and that's about a foot. 1 yard is about as long as a baseball bat. So if you were measuring my hand, you probably wouldn't want to use a yard because it's too big. And then 1 mile, and what they did with this one, it says 1 mile in about 20 minutes. But something for you guys is when Coach would take you out on the field, I think it was 4 laps around that field was about a mile, to give you kind of an idea of when you would use a mile as a measurement. The next one is the customary units of volume. And remember, volume is how much can fit inside something. And this is liquid volume, so we're not talking about like something that's not liquid. This is just liquid. We have a cup, and this is a cup, and it's not the best, it's hard to see. So when you think of a cup, I think of like a little, your little boxes of milk that you get at the lunch. That's about a cup. This pint looks like the box at lunch, but actually this one is double. So if you think of your lunch, your milk at lunch, think of 2 of those, and that's a pint. 1 quart, half gallon. A half gallon is, I would say, 4 of those milks that you get at lunch. And then a whole gallon, that's that big jug of milk that you get at home, would be your gallon. We don't usually see the quart very often. If you were thinking of a quart, it would probably, here, let me see something that you would know. I don't know, we don't, if you go to the store and you see the little box cartons of milk, that's probably about a quart. Now weight, units of weight, that's how heavy something is. So it looks like 5 pencils is about an ounce. So that means we wouldn't use something really heavy to measure with ounces. We'd use that to measure light things. About a pound is a loaf of bread. So if you take your bread, it would be 1 loaf. That'd be about a pound. And then about a ton is a car. So we would use tons to measure really heavy things. So we're going to be deciding what we would use to measure and if it's reasonable. Like if somebody said, my pencil weighs a ton, that's not really a reasonable answer. Now, in all other parts of the world, they use the metric system. And so the metric system is just, we're still measuring length, we're still measuring volume, and we're still measuring weight, but they call it mass. But they use different lengths to measure. So for lengths, a millimeter is that tiny part. We've seen this on our ruler, that from the one line to the next, it's really, really tiny. About 1 centimeter is about the length or the width of your finger. And then 1 decimeter is if you hold open your hand and you have your palm to your thumb, that's about a decimeter. About a meter, now if you see the arrows here, it's not how tall that door is, it's how wide a door is. So about a meter. So think of our door at school or one of your doors in your house. If you go lengthwise, not height-wise or width-wise, that's about a meter. And then a kilometer only takes about 10 minutes. Now, if we go back here to a mile, that takes 20 minutes. So a kilometer is smaller than a mile. All right, so let's come down here to metric unit of volume. So they only have two. A millimeter, it's one of those little dropper fills, is a millimeter, so it's pretty small. And then a liter is usually about, like if you buy water bottles, that's usually about a liter of water. And then mass, remember that's just a different way of saying how heavy something is. How much mass does it have? About a gram is about how much a dollar weighs. So if you put a dollar in your hand and is that very heavy? No, so a gram is not very heavy. And then a kilogram is about how heavy a bat is. Now we use the bat over here for length, but that was how long it was. Over here in metric system for mass, a kilogram is how heavy. If you held a bat, how heavy. So first, one of the things we're going to decide is if we are going to be using the lengths, or if we use volume, or if we use weight, and then we have to decide if our answer is reasonable. So that's what we're going to be working on today. And like I said, this chart is too hard to draw, so just make sure that you can have it up. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to, okay. So I'm going to put it over here to the side, and I'm going to pull up unlock the problem here. Okay, so we're just going to do a few of these together just to get an idea. It says Jake says the length of his bike is about 4 yards. Use the benchmark units below to help determine if Jake's statement is reasonable. Okay, so here is our yard, and they put it right here. Jake says his bike is 4 yards, so that would mean 4 baseballs. A baseball bat is about 1 yard long. Since Jake's bike is shorter than 4 times the length of a baseball bat, his bike is shorter than 4 yards. And so there's our little thing. We can use it here. Oops, get it out of the way. Okay, let me put it back up over here. So it says, so Jake's statement, is it reasonable or is it not reasonable? It is not reasonable. Jake's bike is about 4 baseball bats long. So that's what we're going to be practicing. So when he says it's 4 yards, it's not 4 yards because we use the bat, because we know a bat is about 1 yard long, and so we know that it's really not 4. It is only 1. Okay. It says about how much liquid is in a mug of hot chocolate. So when you think of just a mug, what do you think it's going to be? Do you think it's going to be a cup, a pint, a quart, a half gallon, or gallon? Now when I think of a cup, this looks just like a cup. So normally when you have a mug, unless it's a huge mug, a regular size mug would be a cup. Okay, let me hit my next one. Oh goodness. Let's move those. I can't read those. Get those out of the way. There we go. Okay, a kilometer is a metric unit for measuring the length or the distance. Okay, so we're back to metric, so we're on the orange side on this side. The benchmark shows that the distance you can walk in about 10 minutes. So 1 kilometer in 10 minutes. Now, is the length of your classroom greater or less than 1 kilometer? Okay, so if we think back, would it take us more or less than 10 minutes to walk from one side of the classroom to the other side of the classroom? It would take less, that's right. So this one, our answer for this would be less. The length of our classroom is less than 1 kilometer, because that does not take us 10 minutes to walk across the classroom. Okay, so now we have a chart here. We have the centimeter, the meter, the kilometer, the gram, the kilogram, millimeter, and liter. Now this is metric, so if it's metric, we have to use our orange measurements. Okay, so it says use the benchmarks to choose the metric unit that you would use to measure each. So a mass of a strawberry. So I go down here to where it says mass, and I think, is it going to be about, use the benchmarks. So which one would we use, a gram or a kilogram? That's right, a gram, because that's not a strawberry. When I think of a strawberry, it's not very heavy, so I would use a gram to measure it, not a kilogram. What about the length of a cell phone? So we go over here to where it says length. So I'm thinking about the cell phone. Well, the millimeter is too small. The centimeter might be usable. Decimeter is not on our list, so we can't choose it. So if we're looking at these, we have a choice of the centimeter, the meter, or the kilometer. So we've got the kilometer, which takes 10 minutes to walk. That's definitely not a cell phone. A meter is about across of a door. Well, that's really too long. I wouldn't use that to measure it. So the only one that's left is centimeter. So the best metric unit to measure a cell phone would be a centimeter. So when you have your choices, you've got to look at each choice and see what would be the best one to measure. Okay, so we're going to write more or less, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap up this lesson, and then we'll let you practice. Matthew's large dog weighs blank than 1 ton. So I've got to find ton. It's over here on the blue. It's about a car. So does Matthew's large dog weigh more than a ton or less than a ton? So think of a car. And I'm pretty sure I've never seen a dog that weighs more than a car, so I'm going to say less. So it weighs less. There can be blank than 1 cup of water in a kitchen sink. So we've got this little, and we've already said that 1 cup, like the chocolate, hot chocolate is 1 mug, 1 cup. It says, so how many cups can be in the sink? Is it more than 1 cup or less than 1 cup? And that one would be more, because there's lots of cups of water that can fit in our kitchen sink. A paperclip has a mass of, okay, mass, I already know that means metric, of more than 1 kilogram. Okay, so a kilogram is as heavy as a bat. So you think of holding your bat and holding your paperclip. So the paperclip has the mass of more than a kilogram or less. Which one's it has less, because no way does that paperclip weigh more than that bat. All right, so for today's lessons, this is what we're going to be practicing today. Keep your unit chart somewhere handy. Do your split screen, because it's really going to help.